I was told that I just stand wrong and that's why I'm in pain. Is this true? Can we really use the way we stand in a one-off time frame as an indicator as to whether or not we're going to get pain or not? Do we even stand the same way every time? I mean, I could probably just stand on one leg a little bit, on the other leg a little bit, slightly slouched a little bit, and at any given time I'm standing differently. So then if I'm in an assessment, will I stand how I stand in the day, or will I stand differently? Will I stand how I think I should stand? You know, is it accurate to depict how we stand? And even if it's how we stand, would it even indicate anything? And that's what we're going to look at here, some research that looked at just this. So here they did a study where they looked at lumbar lordosis, which is the inward curvature of the lumbar spine, the lower back, and they looked at sacrum orientation, which is basically indicating the pelvic tilt, the pelvic position. And they looked at 353 asymptomatic, non-painful individuals, and what they got them to do was to stand 6 times repetitively, and they measured basically what their lumbar position, their lower back position, and their sacrum, their pelvic position, was basically doing, to see if it was the same every time, and so on and so forth. So out of all these people, 332 were non-athletes, 21 were athletes, and they even had a group of people with lower back pain, which there was 83. They measured the position with a non-invasive tool just to determine the position of the pelvis and the position of the lower back. The first thing they found is there was no difference between each group. So the athletes were no different to the non-athletes, no different to the back pain people. So it would appear that there's no correlation between the lordosis of your back, the sacrum position, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a non-athlete, whether you're in pain, it makes no difference. They're all varied and they have no difference on average between each other. So overall, out of everybody, the variance in degrees with the pelvic position was 40 degrees difference in terms of sway. And the lumbar lordosis was 53 degrees variance out of all of them as well. In the asymptomatic non-athletes, 51% had a variance of 10 to 20% in their lumbar lordosis, and 29% had a difference of 20% or more. In sacrum orientation, 53% had a variance of less than 20%, but 31% had a variance of more than 30%. So what does this tell us? This tells us that there is no real difference between athletes, non-athletes, and people in pain, whether they're looking at their back position, their pelvic position, on average. This also tells us that we stand differently just within 6 different stands. So, and the variance is quite large. So we're taking a snapshot when we look at them in isolation in a clinic. And this doesn't mean they stand this way all day. They stand in quite a varied amount of ways, and this is true of all of the groups. So this shows us that we've got to be careful. Now, it doesn't mean we shouldn't look at the way people stand, because some people you go, whoa, there's something really obvious and something really significantly problematic going on there. But in a lot of people, it would appear that there's just a lot of variance in there. People stand how they stand. It doesn't always have a bearing. Now, I'm not saying it never has a bearing, but we've got to be careful to use this in isolation. And this study was just very interesting because it looked at these pelvic and these lumbar spine positions, and they found really, like I say, huge variances in individual stands. We stand differently, and we don't differ as to whether we're in pain or not, or whether we're an athlete or not. So it was just a really interesting study, because a lot of people will blame the way they stand, their posture, their position, on why they're in pain, and will also say, oh, I'm standing this way because I'm in pain. So it may not be actually as true as you may think. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.